My friends, we have reached the 25th Sunday in the ordinary time, which means that there are only 8 Sundays remaining before we celebrate Christ the King. That will conclude the liturgical calendar for this year. And so, as you know, we are transitioning into another season. And the liturgy of the Word today is an invitation for us to go to the basics. And it is talking about Jesus talking about simplicity, about truthfulness and humility that are essential in our relationship with God. And at the end, he used the childlike virtues, put a child in their midst, and then whoever receives this child receives me and the one who sent me. And then on the other part of the gospel, he also said that unless you become like little children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. And so we will investigate on this childlike virtues that are essential in fulfilling the commands and requirements according to Jesus on how we can go to heaven and relate properly with God. We will investigate on this virtues of a child that necessary, that could help and inspire us to be closer to God. So we'll go straight to this just 4 main childlike virtues that we have to develop in our lives. The first one is childlike virtue is looking at the world with awe and wonder. That's the first virtue, which is the foundation of faith. Looking at the world with awe and wonder means that we recognize that everything, every event, there is somebody behind responsible for this. There is a greater, higher power behind every event, everything that happens in the world. Looking at the wonder, like a wide-eyed wonder. And if you remember when we were babies and children in the kindergarten, they told us to recite a rhyme about looking at the world with awe and wonder. I don't know if you still remember this rhyme. It says, all things bright and beautiful, right? All creatures great and small. All things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all. That is the rhyme of a child looking at the world with awe and wonder. And this is essential to faith. There are people who, everything that happens, they attribute to a higher power all the time. Which means that on our own, we cannot achieve anything unless we are helped by somebody. A greater person, bigger than we are. This is a childlike virtue, which is the foundation of faith, the beginning of faith, that everything is a gift from God and everything is wonderful. Very positive outlook in life, gratitude for the goodness of God. So this is number 1 virtue that we need, like a child, looking at the world with awe and wonder. Second childlike virtue is innocence. What is innocence? Innocence means that you take things as they are. Objectively, there are no bad thoughts, there are no prejudices, there are no misconceptions, prejudgments, and it's just taking things as they happen. That is innocence. It's just take objectively, realistic. There are no, like children, they don't worry. That is why they don't have high blood pressure. It's the parents who worry for them. They don't worry. They just, jump and they feel at home and they are cool. They take things as they are every moment. It seems to me that life is fun for them all the time. They don't worry, especially when they are babies and young. There are no prejudgments and malice and misconception. That is a very beautiful virtue. And that is the key to happiness. They don't need high blood pressure pills to do because they are innocent. Okay? The third important virtue, childlike virtue, that I think everybody should imitate is simplicity. Children are very simple. It is the adults that make things complicated. The older we become, the more complications we make with life. The more complicated, we make with life. In everything that we do, I choose one perfect example of a problem with simplicity. The conversational English language. It is evolving. It's becoming more complicated. And the more complicated it becomes, the more vague it sounds. The way we use language or conversation. For example, one time I was asking a lady, I said, "What's your job?" And she said, "I am an administrative assistant." Okay? 8 syllables. And then I said, "What's that?" And she said, "I work in the office." Okay? So I said, "Well, a janitor is an administrative assistant who works in the office." I said, "No, I'm not a janitor. I'm a clerk." What's wrong with a clerk? 1 syllable versus 8. Okay? So what's wrong with the word? One English, very simple. And then one time a pest control guy went to a house, and then he told the homeowner, he said, in order to ascertain the condition of your exterior, I have to take a cursory look at your subterranean substructure. And the owner said, "You mean you're going to crawl under the house?" Why couldn't you just say that in simple language? Do you know that they do not use the word ugly anymore? They say it's acute appearance deficit. Very, very vague. So, this is a problem. Simplify things. Make it simple, to the point. And language is always a temptation, and the more complicated it becomes, the more vague it sounds. Then the last important virtue of a child, I think that is the solution to all the problems of the world, and even we can say mental health, people struggling with mental health. Very important childlike virtue that if the world can only learn, it will solve a lot of problems in the world. And this is children find it so easy to forgive. We adult people, we don't forgive. We bring our enemies to the grave. We don't forgive. Look at the children. They play, and then they fight, and then they cry. After 30 minutes, they're friends again. It's so easy. They share candies again, and their eyes are still wet with tears, but they're friends again. In my former parish, there is a huge hospital there in the psychiatric ward with hundreds of patients. The psychiatrist came in and he said, Father, if these people only learn how to forgive, 80% of them can go home. It is unforgiveness that makes the world sick. This violence and all these things that are happening, and grudges and hatred. This is a terrible scourge that we humans are suffering. Even our mental health, the thing that makes us so stressed and so angry, this unforgiveness that we have carried, and it's affecting our lives, our health. Learn to forgive like a child, and the world will be more peaceful to live in.